so excited to have her today. And I just want to say this woman has not only been a house sitter for almost a decade and a half, but she is super amazing with animals and obsessed with traveling. She's lived across 5 different continents and she lives and breathes house sitting. So we are so excited to have her experience and expertise today, sharing with us all about house sitting so that we can travel cheaper, better, and longer. Angela, feel free to take it away.
Thanks, Erica. Hi, can you hear me now? Wow. Hi, everybody, and welcome. I've just been watching the screen from where you are, and I mean all over, and this is so exciting. So thank you for joining me in Scotland. And it's rainy and it's dark and it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So yeah, but let's get going, because the one thing is that when I start talking, I go on and I only have so much time. So I've got my cards in front of me to keep me on script. So welcome. So we're going to talk about house sitting, and Eric is going to present my slide for me just in case there was any digital issues. And so can I have the next slide, please, Erica? And the next slide is a little bit about me. You've got stats up there, which I'm not going to read out. I am community manager for Trusted House Sitters, which is a global community of 80,000 pet-loving travelers. The key about Trusted House Sitters, we are connected by animals. That's why we're such a special, special community. All of those stats up there say half the story. The rest of the story will come as we go on with the presentation, because that's what this is all about. Yes, I've been sitting for 14 years, house and petting across 8 countries, 200 sits, numerous animals, and it's the pets that actually it's all about. I have my 3 P passions, which are pets, people, and places. So let's go into those pets, people, and places. Thanks, Erica. So house sitting, what is house sitting? I know some of you are out there already, have been doing house sitting, and for those who haven't, it really is an exchange. It's a fair exchange, it's a mutual trust exchange, and it's caring for people's homes and pets while they're away in exchange for accommodation in a new place. It really is a win-win-win. And the third win is the animals. The win-win is for humans, the third one is for the animals, and it's pets. All pets, every pet, and it's not just dogs and cats. Who is it good for? You know, who can do house sitting? Well, people, and of course, and it doesn't matter whether you're couple, single, there's no age barriers. It is everything that you want it to be. It takes you to places that you never thought possible. And with the explosion of remote working, it is an ideal environment for remote workers. Next slide, please, Erica. So what is house sitting? Hi, it's perfect for pet lovers. It is all about the pets. With Trusted House Sitters, our pets come first because that's what connects us. It's a home away from home, so no more hostels, no more impersonal hotel rooms. It is, you walk in, it's your home. You walk through the door and you are stepping into somebody else's life, and that home will give you everything that you would expect to make your journey and your life and your lifestyle comfortable. Sometimes it's luxurious, sometimes not so, but the one thing it always is different, uniquely different every single time. And it's the way of connecting and making meaningful connections and giving purpose. I started because I lost my best friend, which was, she had 4 legs, a tail, a wet nose, and I was bereft when she went. But I also knew I didn't want to have another pet in my life, but animals are my passion. And so she led me to this path that I've been doing for 14 years. And so it gives me purpose. It gives, we all need a purpose in life. We need a reason for getting up in the morning for what we do. And this is what house sitting can do. It also allows you to sit back and slow travel, and you get under the skin of a new location. You're not going through and doing 50 countries or 50 locations in a week. You can stay there as long as you like. And remote working. Since the pandemic, remote working has exploded. Companies have gone remote first, and this is ideal for remote workers You get, you don't want to be at home all the time. As long as you've got an internet connection, you can work anywhere. Next, Erica. So we've talked a little bit about what it is. We'll get further into that. But the one thing that we need to understand is what it isn't. It's not for non-pet lovers, unless you can, you can go to different platforms where you'll just get house sitting. But from Trusted House Sitters and most platforms that we're aware of, pets come first. That's why owners come to the platforms. It is not a free vacation for you and your friends. You'll be quite surprised that sometimes we get non-members contact us looking to join up and go, I want to go to Barbados from the 8th of March to the 9th of October, or they want to spend the whole summer there. How can I do this? Well, the answer is you can't. So it's not a free vacation. It's also not an accommodation solution. So if you are wanting to travel, you're wanting to backpack, you're wanting to go out there, and you feel, I'm going to save money and I can get accommodation, it's not that solution, because the pets and the homes come first. If you're looking to have a hotel or resort vacation, pet sitting is not for you. You have to clean the house. When you go into a hotel, you don't do that. You've got room service arrives and they clean it for you. In homes, that's what you do. You keep it clean and tidy. It's also not guaranteed. You can't guarantee that you're going to get the house sit that you apply for. You may not, but it also, life happens and plans can and do change. And the one thing that we impress on everybody is always to have that plan B. Next, Erica. So here we are, some of the benefits and some of the challenges. And if you've got more benefits, if you're a sitter out there and you can add to this, put it in the chat, because we only have so much space. So save money on accommodation. Absolutely you do. This is a fair exchange. It's an exchange, a mutual benefit exchange. So you go into a home, you save on accommodation. Not just accommodation, you save on internet, you save on laundry, you save on cooking, you save on all of those things, because you're in a home and you don't have to go out and eat in expensive restaurants. So you can actually plan and save and you can budget. The most important thing as well is you become part of a global community, and that community contains pets and people. That global community, a global community where you can share, when you can connect, and a global community that is connected by animals. And there's something really, really special about that. Pet companionship. What better way to actually go into a home and be working remotely and you've got that pet, or you go out and you explore a new place with your new best furry friend. And you know what? When you're walking around with animals, or you're walking with a dog, what's the first thing people do? They come up, they talk to you, they want to make a fuss of the dog. So you do make those connections. It's also a travel lifestyle that fits in with your travel plans. It has flexibility. You can actually plan it around your life and what you want to do. You have also the ability to stay somewhere longer. Say you're going to sit and you go to a town and hey, this is really nice, I like it here. After you sit, you could actually stay longer. You could book an Airbnb and stay on for some extra time. Or you can get another sit and stay there. You may finish up like lots. You go for a week and you end up there for 6 months. But that's the beauty of this, because you have that choice. And we've said about remote working already 3 times, but here we go, remote working. We've gone remote first with Trusted House Sitters, so I can actually go and work anywhere. The one question I have, and the one thing I can't do without, is an internet connection. So that's the one thing I make sure that is stable and good before I actually get into a pet sit. So along comes benefits. You also have the other side, which is challenges. Now, those challenges can be being in perpetual motion, not emotion, motion. And that's for those that actually do this full time. And that's not the majority, but it's some. And sometimes you want to sit back and go, and stay in somewhere. But being in that, you have to know yourself. And you also, when you're in that perpetual motion, You make short-term attachments. You don't really stay somewhere long enough to get attached. So you have to know yourself and you have to be comfortable with that. Saying goodbye to pets. I cry every time, and I know other sitters do too. Because when we're there and we connect with them, we really believe that we've become their people. We're there and that's what we're there for, and we bond with them. And we are, but the moment their real people walk back through the door, we're chopped liver. They don't want to know us, and that's exactly how it should be. But it's saying goodbye to those pets. You have to be a planner and organize between sit stays. So you go for a sit, you may be there for a couple of weeks, and you've booked another sit, but something happens that it doesn't happen. What are you going to do? You have to plan and organize. You also have to manage your own expectations. You can go online, you can read all, sort of articles and blogs about sitters that are doing this and having amazing time. And yes, they are, but also you have to start somewhere, and you have to be realistic with your expectations when you first start out, and you have to manage those. But the most important thing there is getting to know yourself and exactly what it is you're comfortable with and what it is that you want from this lifestyle. Living and relaxing in somebody else's place. Now, if you're not comfortable going in and making a cup of tea in somebody's house, then you might not be comfortable living in their house. And I know this happened to my son. He, on paper, made the perfect pet sitter. He went into a home to do this sit. It was lovely, and he looked after it. And at the end of it, he said, "Mother, don't ever ask me to do that again." And I went, "Why?" He said, "The stress just got to me. It was looking after somebody else's home. It was being in their home. It was using their, living their lifestyle. And that just to him was too much." But as we've said before, and we'll say again, this is not a lifestyle for everybody. It's a lifestyle for many, but not for everybody. The last thing is, if you intend to go somewhere and be a tourist, pet sitting is not for you. You can explore places when you're pet sitting, and there's nothing better than going out and about with your new best friend. And you have time. You're not chained to the house. You don't have to be there 24 hours a day. But the pets in the home come first. Always remember that. Next, please, Erica. So what are some of the qualities of a 5-star house sitter? Exactly what we're saying. Experienced and informed pet lovers. When I say experienced and informed, that means if you are a pet sitter and you apply to do a sit and it has a particular pet there, you need to know and be able to meet the expectations and the needs of that pet. So you need to know what it is that you can actually do. You need to know your own limitations. You need to be an excellent communicator as well as loving pets. You have to like people too, because people come with the pets. It's not just pets. And being and successful pet sitting and successful house sitting is based on good communication. You have to communicate. And that's from the time that you apply all the way through to when you confirm that sit, when you're on that sit, and afterwards. So if you're not somebody that is a good communicator, perhaps try honing your skills and thinking, this is what I've got to do. Obviously trustworthy. You are taking on 100% responsibility for the two most precious things in people's lives. There's probably only one other precious thing that we have in our lives, and that's children, but we don't do that. So homes and pets. A problem solver. Things happen. You go into a home and everything is fine, but something may happen. Be practical, flexible, adaptable, and know that if something happens, it's not going to throw you, that you will be able to solve those problems. Good housekeepers. Homes have to be cared for. They have to be kept the way you find them and the way you would expect to have yours treated. And last but not least is to go above and beyond. We all know what's expected of us, but there's something in us as sitters that make us want to do even more. And that's not just because we want to impress the owner, it's because that's what we're all about. We want, it's all about keeping those pets happy at home and having that owner come back, that pet parent come back, and just be absolutely so pleased with what we've done. Next one, please, Erica. So making the right choices, and this is really, really important. And this comes down to knowing yourself. So the key things to consider are, where would you be the most comfortable? What's the type of home? Where would you like to go? Are you a city person, country person? Are you remote? Don't apply for a sit in the middle of nowhere if you're somebody that actually doesn't like the dark or can't drive, or all of those good things. So know yourself and know what it is that you will be comfortable, and do your best job. Pets and their needs, again, what pet experience you have. If you're somebody that's looking to do this and you don't have that pet experience, but you love animals and you'd like to do this, now's the time to look and see, how can I get that experience? Volunteer with a shelter, do any of those and actually connect with animals. And you know what? It will soon come to you, and you can do research and you can read up on them, but no pets and their needs. The most important thing is commitment. You have to have the time. You have to be prepared to commit to what it is you're doing 110%. If that's not you, that's great, but this probably isn't the lifestyle for you either. Next. So where can you find house sitting opportunities? All of these platforms, they're all great. But that is the best route to go. Yes, you can go out there and you can find them independently, but if you're with a platform, they will give you support. The listings that are on there have been looked at, they've been approved. You have a basis to start with. Whereas if you go onto the internet and you go onto anywhere, if you're trying to find something yourself, you have no idea what it is you're looking at. So look at the platforms, find out which one is right for you. They all vary. Trusted House Sitters is the largest platform out there. We have the most listings. But the other thing too is you will get support. We have a 24-hour membership services team, so you're never alone. You've always got somebody there. But yeah, do your research, find out which one is best for you. Next. So you've looked at this, you've joined a platform, and you're getting started. So how do you get started? What's the first thing you do? Well, it's like applying for a job. Your CV, your bio, your profile, that is what owners use in the selection process. And so it's really important, and the amount of time that you invest in creating that profile will reap rewards, because they need to get to know you. And how are they going to do that? This is a digital age. The only thing we have to go on is this profile. So go onto the website, browse other sitters' profiles for inspiration. Don't copy, that's plagiarism. Be you, but get that inspiration. Get noticed. What is it when you go online and you see a story you might not even be interested in, but if that headline grabs you, you're going to open it up and read it, and you're going to say, you might get halfway through and go, why did I bother reading this, and come out. But you don't want an owner to do that with your profile. You want them to go in there and keep reading right to the very end. So it needs to be relevant. And the first thing, a picture really does say 1,000 words. High quality photographs. And we actually research and we survey our owners all the time to find out what it is they want to see in a sitter's profile. The one thing they want to see above all are good quality photographs with pets. Remember, they're looking for pet care. They don't want to see you with half a dozen friends behind you with a bottle of beer and doing selfies. They don't want that. Think relevant. Think, what would I want to see if I was asking somebody to come and look after my pets? And then when you get into the body of the text, share who you are, but most importantly, why you want to house sit. That is the real key. Why is it you want to house sit? Don't write, well, I haven't got home anymore. My parents have kicked me out, so I really want somewhere to stay. That's not going to get you a house sit. So it's why. It's the fact that you have a meaningful and a purposeful reason for wanting to do this. Like me, I lost my Holly. And for me, the reason why I wanted to do this is because animals bring joy into my life. And I wanted that joy back without having the responsibility of my own. I wanted to be able to give, because in the time I had Holly, I had people look after her when I needed to travel. And when I went away, I had that comfort in knowing that she was at home with somebody who really, really cared for her. And so I wanted to do the same for the people that I go to. And that's what it's about. Add references. People say, well, when I first start out, I'm not going to have any house sitting reviews. Well, that's okay, because you can go and get character references, and it's quality over quantity. Those that can attest to your love of animals, your trustworthiness, and the fact that you may actually also have pet sat for somebody, they can give you a reference as well. So you start off with kudos there. Relevant skills. Do you love gardening? Are you good at DIY? Have you volunteered before? Can you speak languages if you're going somewhere where the languages are different? Do you have any pet skills? You know, have you attended any classes, or what pets have you had in your life? All of that is relevant. The other thing is walk in my shoes. That means that as a sitter, when you're preparing your profile, you have an owner's hat on. Think from their point of view, as I've said before. What is it that you want to know? What is it that would compel you to have this person come and sit for you? Next, Erica. Right, so getting started. How do you get started? What we advise is to start local when possible. Now, some of you may say, but I live in the middle of Wyoming and the nearest town to me is 1,000 miles away. How do I start locally? That's a challenge. However, you will find a way. So start locally when possible, which obviously is easier when you're living in cities. My first sit was literally a 10-minute drive from my house. I went there and I lived in this home with this adorable, adorable spaniel for 2 weeks, because his mum was going to Toronto for 2 weeks on business, and she needed somebody to keep Charlie happy and loved at home. And I was 10 minutes away, so I went. And you know what? Even though it was only 10 minutes away, I saw parts of Vancouver Island that I wouldn't have gone to otherwise. So start local. Is this right for you? The way you're going to find that out is to just do short sits. Don't go onto a website and go, oh my goodness me, yeah, I can go to Bora Bora for 3 months and have an amazing time. I'm going to apply for that because, hey, they've only got 3 people who've applied. I might just get in there. So you go to Bora Bora and you sit down in mosquitoes, the heat, there's no AC, there's no, and you go, Mum, I want to come home. Actually, you can't get home because you committed to go there for 3 months. And when you commit, you don't ever stop. You don't ever walk away, because we just don't do that. Because our arrangement is built on trust. And what trust is it if you actually commit to something and halfway through get up and walk out? You don't do that. And so be very, very sure that what it is you want to do. So short sits, you test drive. You may go and do a sit of a week, about an hour's drive away. And at the end of that week go, do you know what? This is not for me. Well, that's great, because you only drove for an hour. You can now go home and look at your plan B. But you can go away for a week and go, do you know what? I love this. I have just had the best time. And then you start. So you build reviews, and that's with local, you've got a better chance of doing that because you're there on the ground, you're right there. And many owners, particularly first-time owners, would like to meet a sitter before they actually commit. And if you can, you can go there, last-minute sits as well. Things happen for pet parents. They may have to go away suddenly and they need a sitter. You can actually step in there and you can go and do this. And that's the way you build your reviews. And you've got better chances of early success. That's finding a sit if you're on the spot. It took me 2 months and numerous applications to actually get my first sit. And even now, and I've got numerous reviews and I've been doing this for 14 years, I don't always get the sits I apply for, because pet parents are looking for that personal, they're looking for that connection. And somebody who's not done any sits may apply for the same sit I applied for, but because they connect, they got it. And that's how it works. And as I say, this is all about trust. And if you can meet in person before, that is the start of building that trust, and you communicate, and yeah, and it just works. It's serendipity, it works. Next, please, Erica. Tips for getting selected. Okay, we've talked about a few. So the first thing when you apply for a sit is you write that personalized message. And that's the key word, personalized. Pet parents will come to the platform, they'll post their listing, and in their listing, they put all of the details of their listing, their pets, everything. Read it. Don't just apply and think, oh, I'm going to get this. And don't copy and paste. It needs to be personalized. Sometimes it's a lot of work, especially because you don't just apply for one, you apply for more than one at a time. And sometimes it's a lot of work, but you know what? It's worth it in the end. And pet parents and owners will actually see that you've gone to that trouble. So you write a personalized message, mention the pets by name. And we've had owners that have come and said they applied and they didn't even mention and one actually said, I'd like to look after your cat. And it was actually a dog they had. So that wasn't gonna, yeah. The right sit, we've talked about that again. It's not just any sit, it's the right sit. Know yourself, know your limitations, know what it is that you can do and what you will be able to cope with. You know, don't go and apply for a farm sit where there's alpacas and pigs and chickens and everything. If you're on your own and you've only ever looked after a cat, that's not going to work. So you actually need to know yourself. And then when you go through the process and you apply for the sit, you volunteer and you suggest a video call and an interview. And all of this is done before you actually commit. You have to make sure that it's the right sit before you actually agree. Both sides, owners and sitters, it has to be right. And the only way you're going to know that is by having all of that communication and asking the questions and ticking the boxes and dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And then, because when it works, it's work. Reference and reviews, again, you know, like I said before, we survey owners and the one thing they put store by is references and reviews. And that they look at those, and this is peer-to-peer. This is other owners saying, you know, that they had a wonderful experience with you. References before your reviews. Again, if you've looked after pets and you've had pets of your own, then you do that. And keep applying, don't give up. I did 2 months worth of application up and I got it. Next, please, Erica. Right, so some of the pets and homes you can enjoy. Now, I want you all to look very closely at this slide, because there are three interloper images, and I wonder if you can find them. But the first one, actually, I'm going to go straight ahead, and that gorgeous Labradoodle who is sitting there, his name is Barkley, and he lives in San Diego. Now, Barkley, I've looked after him 5 times. And every afternoon at 4 o'clock, I go driving Mr. Barkley in his Mercedes-Benz, in his Barkley mobile, because Barkley has this routine with his dad where he goes at 4 o'clock every afternoon to his favorite dog park. He plays with his friends. He's actually in the car in the garage at 3:30 in the afternoon waiting to go. So he goes out there, and that's where I go every afternoon. And I'm going back to look after Barkley in April for 3 weeks while his mum and dad go off again. Bottom left-hand corner, you'll see there is a bottle of champagne. Now, I wonder why there's a bottle of champagne there. Right. Did a house sit in France, in Épinay, and I don't know if any of you are familiar. Épinay is the centre of the champagne industry. That bottle of champagne represents a sit I did, or we did, my husband and I, for 3 weeks. They were grape growers for the champagne industry. They supplied Moët & Chandon, all of the high-end labels, and Mums and all of them. When we arrived at the sit, and we were looking after 2 adorable dogs, and when we arrived at the sit, the pet owner said, okay, we have something for you. In the kitchen were 2 fridges. He opened the second fridge and it was full of champagne, the champagne that they produce. And by the side of the fridge, there was a crate of champagne. And he said, and if you run out, that's your spare. And it was the best champagne I have ever drunk. Honestly, I was fighting with my husband saying, you can't have this. When we left, they presented us with a bottle with our own label on it. We still have that. I'm sure it's turned to vinegar by now, but anyway, it's there. Up in the top right-hand corner, there is a little photograph, and if you can see it, it's actually a picture of the Kennedy family. Now, why would we have the Kennedys in this? I did a 6-week sit in Manhattan. The apartment was on 93rd and 5th Avenue, overlooking Central Park. I looked after Alfie, a Labradoodle. I looked after a Mitzi, a Dachshund, and it's all right, my timer's going off, and Sabrina, a cat. Now, this was a really cool apartment block. The apartment was huge. And if anybody's been to New York and walked the High Line, there's a big mural on the side of one of the buildings that says, if you have enough space in New York, you're either very small or very wealthy. Well, this apartment was very large. So it was really cool because you got in the elevator and you pressed a button, and as you got down the bottom, when you got to the door, a cab was waiting for you. That called the cab. So I go out this one day and I walked out, and this young concierge, this young doorman walked out with me. He was a lovely young guy, just started. He opened the cab door for me. I slid in and he said, "Have a nice day, Mrs. Kennedy." And I went, "Thank you, young man, and you." The apartment used to belong to the Kennedy family, and the couple I was house sitting for had bought it from them. But this young man did not realize that I was not a Kennedy, that the Kennedys had left like 16 years earlier. But that was my few minutes of fame. The couple that owned that apartment actually now live in San Diego and have the most adorable dog called Casey, because Alfie passed away. I've been there 6, 7 times to look after. They've become friends for life, and I love them dearly. And that's what happens with house and pet sitting. Next one, please, Erica. Right, so who are pet sitters and house sitters? They're people like you and me, and Vanessa is on this call, who's you know, her and I are like kindred spirits, because her and Ian have been doing this around the world for as long as I've been doing this, and we love what we do. And actually, Vanessa is on a sit now of a couple that I sat for, and she's now looking after Coco the cat, who, if you're not careful, your arm will get destroyed, but she's really very cute. She's really, really cute. So, and I have to thank Vanessa for many reasons. So these are people like you. Now, what I would implore you to do is, up in the top left-hand corner, that photograph of that couple with that gorgeous dog in San Francisco. There was an article published by CNN this weekend, and it's about Jonathan and Julie. It's their story. You want to know more about house and pet sitting and what it can do. And for them, the same as me, the pets come first. The pets take over our lives when we're on a sit. That's what they're. Up in the top right-hand corner, Steph is just a dream. She is the most inspirational woman, and she is helping other women live their life and their dreams, because she's got this business that she's been building while she's been sitting, and she's been building online. And this is what it's all about. Chris and Sue's down on the bottom left, they're building their business and they're full-time sitters. And then, you know, Adam and Petter, the same. Last but not least, the young gentleman in the bottom left right-hand corner, Mark, he was not a pet person. He was not an animal person. His brother got him into sitting, and he's done 5 sits, and he just said, "I am the biggest animal person that I never knew I was." And so that's what they do for you. Next, please, Erica. So many of you, I hope there's many of you out there who are not just wanting to be sitters. You may be owners or pet parents that are looking for somebody to look after your pet. I'm not going to go through these points. I'm just going to say one thing to you. You've just spent the last 30 minutes with me, and my timer went off. You just spent the last 30 minutes with me. I would like to ask you this one question. Would you allow me to come and look after your pets in your home? Excuse me, I need another drink. If the answer to that is yes, and please, I hope it is, I can't, then I'm not unique. Vanessa is me. We have thousands of sitters that are me because we do it for one reason and one reason only. We don't get paid. We choose this as a lifestyle choice. We don't get paid. We do it out of our love for animals, our love for people, and wanting to give pet parents peace of mind when they travel. And in return, we get far more than we ever give. I can assure you of that. There's no counting cost at all. Next, please, Erica. And that's it. But what I would like to say before I leave is thank you for joining us. And if any of you are in San Diego on February the 26th, which is 2-3 weeks time, we've got a live event at Little Italy. We have live events there every month, but we've got another one on the 26th from 10 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. I will be there. We'll have other members there. We'll have, we've got Marco, who's the most amazing caricature artist, and you'll get a free picture, free portrait. But yeah, if you're in San Diego, please come to Little Italy Dog Park on the 26th. And that is me, and I guess it's over to questions now. Hi.
Wow. Wow. Angela, you can watch my non-existent pets any day. I trust you with all of my future pets' lives, okay? Amazing job. I just want to say I'm so inspired by just like you and who you are, and also saying like that you are not that you're not unique, and that's what these platforms are filled with. And I think I just like to see from whoever is on the chat or like showing up in their little with their face, who's inspired and who wants to pet sit after this talk. Can I see show of hands or chat away? Oh my gosh. I think you just enrolled hundreds of people into house sitting just now. I hope that you guys caught this, but since Angela is part of Trusted House Sitters, they are offering 25% off their memberships, and you can do that with the code NMEvent25. Is that correct? NMEvent25. Yes. And there's also a link that has been dropped in the chat multiple times. I see some of your hands raised. We have over 300 people in here. So if you could just type your questions in, that's how we'll get these done. We have had people from our team that have been getting the questions as Angela was speaking. So I'm gonna quickly run through some of these. And then of course, Angela is always available for you to connect with her. She shared her Twitter and her email address, and we can drop that in the chat again. So if you have any specific questions, especially specific to your situation, feel free to just contact Angela at the end. But we'll have about 20 minutes of question and answer now. And so I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Are you ready, Angela?
Yes, I am indeed.
Okay. One question we have for the newcomers, what are some of the things that have been unexpected that they ran into? So for people that have never house sat before, what's something that, you know, you may walk into a house and you may have heard that they were like, "Ooh, I did not know this was going to be there." Like, can you give us some examples of that?
I think really what it is more than anything else is it going into a strange place and being in a strange home and actually not knowing, but you then get, and there's not really a lot because the communication you have between the owner and yourself, and there's a welcome guide that is actually provided, which that welcome guide is really detailed about the home. It's about the pets. It's about, you know, the location. And I think if there's anything that comes up, I actually can't think. Probably, I know what happened. I was on a sit and we had lots of rain in London, and I was sitting there working and I could hear water running, and I looked up and there was actually water coming through the light sockets. And so there was a leak and things like that. You could actually find that when you get to, you get to a sit, there are things that the owner perhaps hasn't said that you may have to do. And that's not because they want to take advantage. It's because that you know yourself, if you're around something all the time and you're used to doing it, you sometimes forget to tell somebody that, oh, that, I don't only have half a dozen plants to water, I've got a whole garden to water, I think the key to that is, yes, there might be surprises, but it's the communication beforehand. It's making sure that you've got that all right. And but the other thing to remember too is, if there's something that's unexpected, we live in a digital age. You're never going to be away from those owners and in contact with them for any time, because you keep in contact with them anyway, because you send them pictures of their pets and how they're doing, and you stay there. So really and truthfully, no, I mean, I've done over 200 sits, and the only thing I can say is the water coming in through lights. And one day I had a swarm of wasps in a dining room, but other than that, no.
That sounds like fun. Did you have to feed them? I'm just
I tried to herd them, but no, it didn't work.
Amazing. Okay, and that brings me to my next question, which I know you stressed, like once you commit to a house sit, you really like stay there until the end. However, what happens if something happens to you? Like you get injured or you get sick? Like what happens in that type of situation?
Okay, and this is one that I also was on the other side as an owner, and I used to have sitters come to my home. So I would always ask ahead of time, what happens if there's an emergency? Do you have a plan B? What we say to owners and sitters is always have a plan B. We impress on owners that life happens. Do they have emergency contacts? Do they have people that know their homes and their pets well that can actually step in if there is an emergency situation? If you're actually a couple and you're sitting, I've been in a situation where my husband has gone off and left me there, and we know other couples that have done that. But this is where the planning comes into place, and always knowing, because it is highly unlikely, but we know life happens. And so those owners will have an emergency contact. You also need to have that plan B and know what you would do if there was an emergency situation.
That totally makes sense. Totally. We have somebody with allergies that's asking a question. Like, I love pets, but I have allergies. Is there a way to filter on animal breed types, or is that something you just have to discuss with the owner?
No. When you do a search on the site, you have the option to search the pets and types of pets. And so on Trusted House Sitters, and I believe many other platforms, we're all pets. You might be allergic to cats. However, you might not be allergic to chickens. And I can tell you, I've looked after chickens and they are absolutely fascinating. I've also looked after pigs and they're fascinating too. So yeah, I mean, you can filter, sort of whatever pets that you think you can actually look after.
But it's just like dogs. It's not like Labradoodles. Like you just have the filter for the actual animal, not the breed type.
We're actually working on that, because in actual fact, even Labradoodles and so-called hypoallergenic dogs, there's no such thing. If you really look at it, there is no such thing. And I can say that with some credibility, because my daughter is an emergency and critical care vet, and I've had these discussions with her. We're going to be able to do that, because it's not just allergies. Some people actually prefer to look after certain breeds, and knowing those breeds, but they will be in the listing. Most owners will put what breeds are in their listing. You might not be able to filter that search, but you will see it in the listing before you actually apply.
Yeah, and can you just share a little bit more about the filters that you have on your site? I mean, I'm sure there's sort of similar across the board, but what ways can people filter when they're looking for a house sit besides location?
Okay, there's location, there's dates, there's type of house, there's whether or not it's family friendly, it's whether or not you need a car, it's whether or not it's, it's the type of location, it's the pets, and it is all of those things that you need to have that basis to know. So if you're looking for a family sit, you can do that. Whether or not there are, when you get to the nitty gritty about wanting to know about how many bedrooms and things like that, that's in the listing, but you can filter those above, those main things that you want to know before you actually apply. And when you search, you can share.
I think also I saw that it's like internet and also wheelchair accessibility, right?
It is. It's whether or not they're all of those handicapped access and internet, car needed, all of those things.
Yeah. And then can you just share, let's say, I mean, I'm calling from New York right now, and in New York, we all have roommates. So is this like a situation where I have one room in a house or in an apartment of 5 bedrooms and you can have like your own bedroom bathroom? Is that okay? Or what's the situation when it comes to house sitting?
With Trusted House Sitters, we have a strict no third party policy. Only the sitters are the occupants of the house while the sit is on. And one of the reasons for that, one of the main reasons for that, is actually privacy and safety, because you make the agreement with the owner makes the agreement with the sitter. Again, this goes also to many sitters will think, well, I'm going to a 3-bedroom house, can I have visitors while I'm there? And the answer to that is no, not unless you get absolute permission from the owner and you've talked about it. You can't just have your friends from out of town rock up and expect they're going to stay overnight. Doesn't work. But no third party in the house.
That's great to know. Also, we had a question about gardening and just plant care in general. Is that often a part of house sitting, like taking care of pets or like light or heavy gardening?
Vanessa loves gardening. She had 30 trees to prune at one of her sits. And my husband kept a garden for a president of a gardening association. Okay, it's when I said in the presentation, choices, that's what you do. If you are somebody that loves gardening, if you're somebody that has a green thumb, yes, there are sits on the site that have gardens that would like them watered when they don't all have automatic sprinkler systems. When you're there in the summer, they need watering. And so if it's just a case of watering, the owner will come down to the point that we water on a Tuesday at 10 o'clock. That's what the plants are used to. That's what we do. They will give you those specific, specific instructions. Me, I love plants and I can water them, but I don't have green fingers. So yes, there is. But what you do is, again, it's choosing. You will know the sit, you'll know what the expectations are. And if it gets to the point where, you know what, I don't want to water, $500,000 worth of bonsai trees, which is what we had to do in LA. I don't want to do that. So you don't take that sit. It's actually choices and it's making the right ones. But yes, if you love gardening, you can have a house full of plants.
And also, aside from plants, do owners usually leave their cars? And I want to say usually, like maybe in your 200 house sits, how many times have you had access to the owner's car?
Okay, it's not a condition of the sit by any means. Don't expect it's going to happen. However, I have always had the use of a car on an international sit, always. Many owners will not put it in their listing, but are open to discussing. And if you are a qualified driver and you really have full insurance and can be assured that you have that, Many owners are open to discussing it. As I say, it's not a condition of the sit, and don't think, oh, I'm going to apply for this and I will get the use of a car, because it's not guaranteed. It's worth discussing, and many owners actually, they will then put a car use in there, because that might make the difference between them getting the sitter of their choice and not. But yes, that's another thing to consider too when you're looking at international sits, which we're all looking at now. You know, it's expensive to rent a vehicle, so it can happen. Yes.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Another question that kept coming up was couples. It's, you might think that there's some extra appeal to having a couple do a house sit. Is that true?
It depends on the home, and it depends on the owners. And we know of couples who've actually, singles who've actually applied for a house sit where they've stipulated couples, but based on their profile and based on the communication, they've actually got the sit. Often couples are requested because the owner will believe that because they live at home with their partner and they run the house together, that's what is expected, that's what's needed. And so it's opening up those discussions. And if it's a huge house which has idiosyncrasies that, it might need somebody, a man, for example, and that's very sexist, we know, because there's women that can change plugs and they can do all sorts of things. But it's the owners very often will put themselves in the place of the sitter and go, well, you know what, my husband does this, I do this, it's going to need two people. The other thing too is, depends on the pets at the sit as well. If you've got 2 or 3 dogs, or if you've got 2 big dogs, and actually it takes a couple to walk those dogs or to look after the animals, that's going to be preferable to a single. But I know there are many owners that have never thought of having a single person that could actually probably do their sit just as well, and they will be open to discussing.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I just wanted to acknowledge to everyone, thank you so much for being here up until this point. We're going to go on about 15 more minutes with question and answers. But we realize that some of you are maybe taking your lunch break to be on this call. So we will be sending out the replay to everyone that RSVP'd. So if you have to go ahead, you can jump off the call and you can listen to the last 15 minutes at your leisure. But Angela, also piggybacking off of the couples, how, when it comes to families with children, especially little children, how often have you seen that work out in your experience?
It does work. And actually, excuse me, we have a family on the site. We got more than one family on the site, but we have one family on the site, and they're called the Svensons, and they actually have a story on our website, and they took a year off and went around the world with their 3 children, and they said, were they mad? No, they weren't mad. They actually did it. But we also have sitters who have little ones, like 18-month-old. It's really down to the type of sit and the type of pet. And it's actually also to the parents, the sitters, respecting the pets that they're going into the homes. And if those pets are used to children, then, and you know what, we also have farms and small holdings, which they're called in the UK, where there's a multitude of animals, different animals who are used to being around small children. So it's really, again, go back to the slide, the right sit. And yes, we do have families with small children. I think bringing up children around animals and teaching them respect and how to treat them, when you see them together, it's like when I watch my granddaughter with her border terrier puppy, and she's taught how to treat him. It's actually quite a joy. And so, yes, we do. Families can have a wonderful time pet sitting.
Great. This is a question that I didn't even cross my mind. I love these community Q&As because you guys bring us the best questions. But if you're going to another country that doesn't speak English, and so the pet owner speaks in a different language to their pet, and you don't speak that language, does that present like a huge issue, or is that something that's easily overcome?
Okay, so we're talking about the pet speaking the other language.
Yes, like if
And
you're
moms, right. I, I did a house sit in Spain that started off as a 6-month sit and it actually finished up into an 8-month sit. And while I was there, I volunteered at a horse rescue center. Many of those horses were used to Spanish commands. And so let's face it, you're not going to sit down at the dinner table with a dog and have a conversation and expect them to actually be answering all your questions, are you? You're going to want them to sit, stay, come, recall. They want recall, all of those things. And guess what? You can learn another language and you can learn to talk to the pets in their language. And it's Google Translate. Oh my goodness, we won't have the pets go on to Google Translate, but you can. And so, yes, I mean, it's a workaround. And animals have a sixth sense. I mean, animals really, yes, you can talk to them in their language, you can talk, but it's that connection that you make. But yes, you can learn half a dozen words, sit, stay, and dinner and food and everything else. And I've done it. I did it in Spain.
I feel like then you have to be careful communicating with humans. You don't want to be commanding humans.
That's right. That's right. Sit, stay, and behave.
Hilarious. This is another random question, but what's the success rate of getting a sit with an unusual pet that you don't necessarily have extensive experience with? For example, if you wanted to work with horses or chickens or reptiles that you hadn't really had experience with, do you often see that pet parents will give someone a try, or will they just like hold off on going on vacation if they can't find someone?
No, I mean, they'll find somebody, because across the platform with all the sitters we have, there will be those that have that experience. But back to the question, it really is like horses, for instance. You don't have to be an equestrian to actually take care of horses, provided you are comfortable around them and you feel safe around them. That's the important thing. And if you can actually demonstrate that to the owners of the horses, that you are comfortable, that you aren't frightened. When it comes to look, exotic pets, I mean, we actually don't have that many exotic pets on the platform. The exotic gets to lizards and snakes and things. And one of them, parrots, birds, for example, the owners will require their sitters to have a knowledge, because some of it is specialized, and especially with birds. And so if you have no knowledge whatsoever, but you actually want to go and sit that type of pet, that animal, my suggestion would be get experience. And you can do that. You can go to places and you can find out. And it's all about, new experiences and actually fitting the bill for what it is you're applying for. And that's what we said. Choose the right sit that's right for you.
That's awesome. We have a question on, like, we know that you and even Vanessa and a few other people on this Zoom call are like full-time house sitters. But what if you just want to be like a once a year house sitter? Is there a disadvantage to that? Especially like when people are, no, okay.
No, there's not. I mean, the one thing that you need is reviews. So when you do these sits, you build up your reviews. So if you're doing one a year, you're only going to get one review a year, but your expectations are not going to be as much, and you're not going to be wanting to apply for loads and loads. You just want that one. You could be that owner's right one, and you can have sort of, if you're flexible and you can do last minute. Absolutely. If you just want to do this once or twice a year, then that's possible. But build up your references, and then those reviews that you get, it is very, very possible. I have to say, and I said this in the presentation, the percentage of full-time sitters is minimal to those that actually do this once and twice a year, that have their own home, that have their own job, that do this, because many people choose to do it because they can't have animals of their own. They don't want to have pets of their own. They may live in an apartment where they can't have a dog, but they want to go and spend time with the dog. We have one sitter in particular who lives in Vancouver, Canada, and she only ever sits dogs, and she lives at home and she stays in her own apartment, but she goes and does gets her dog fixed, because that's how she meets people. That's how she connects with people. And she misses her own dog and doesn't want to have another one of her own. I don't know if anybody's asked this question, but I do want to bring it up because it gets asked of us time and time again. Can I pet sit with my own animal? Can I take my own dog with me? And we get that question many, many times. And I'd like to, for the attendees, I'd like to sort of address that. Just think it's very, very difficult to introduce another animal into a pet's own environment. If somebody has a dog of their own and they look to adopt another one or buy another one, there's a process they go through and they have to introduce it slowly. So if you've got your own dog and you want to go and sit, and I know there's even some that travel with their cats, if you want to go and you want to sit where there are other animals, it's going to be really, really difficult. And so what I would suggest you do better than anything else is become a combined member of the platform, arrange your own sitters and go off and do your sits. Because let's face it, pets like to be kept at home anyway. If you asked a pet if they wanted to go and see the Eiffel Tower, they would say, no, thank you, I'd rather stay at home.
Hilarious. On that note, we did have a question for someone that is already a pet sitter and loves to sit pets and has a house of their own, and was wondering if they could list their non-pet household on Trusted House Sitters and get somebody to just watch their house while they're gone.
Absolutely, because that's what I used to do. My house in Vancouver, Canada, I didn't have my own pets. I went off to house sit. I was gone for 6 months, 3 months, a year at some time. And I had sitters look after my house because for all sorts of reasons, you can't leave a house alone that long. And in Canada, for example, if you leave a house empty for 30 days, you get sort of the insurance company will sort of penalize you. So you need somebody to look after the house. And so that's what I used to do. And I had couples from Australia, New Zealand, all over. And it's a great way also for to go and visit family and friends, get a house sit near family and friends, because you're there, you're independent, you have your comfort, and you can get out doing the cooking and the washing at your daughter's house. And no, I've got to go home and look after the pets. I can't say, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. So yeah, that's a good way.
That's great. So am I to assume that if I filtered on Trusted House Sitters for pets, there's also a no pet choice?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. And then I have some other people wanting to know if they were the homeowners getting a pet sitter question. So one is asking what type of insurance do you recommend for either actually homeowners or the pet sitters? Do they have to have some sort of special insurance policy?
Okay, we have 3 tiers of membership, and in those memberships, I won't go into it in detail because you can go to the site and there's a Q&As and there's all of the details about the memberships there. But within those memberships are sort of cancellation insurance, third-party liability insurance. Some sitters will take out their own liability insurance. However, when I had my sitters in my home in Vancouver, they came under my house contents policy. They came under my home policy. And the reason I know that is because we had an incident where my sitters got a loo brush top stuck down a loo, couldn't get it out, called a plumber. The plumber couldn't get it out. It was a loo brush where it screwed and they got it stuck in the U-bend and it wouldn't come out. They called me and said, we don't know what to do. In the end, couldn't get it out. They had to have a new loo, which was $1,700. We paid half each, but I could have claimed for that on my contents insurance of my home. And so, yes, it is covered. But we don't give advice on insurance. If you have any questions, go to your own insurance provider and they will tell you what is covered and what is not covered.
Also, on that note, can you tell us what the requirement is? Do you have to be from a certain country, of a certain age, of a what do you have to do to be a house sitter?
No, I mean, anybody can be a house sitter. Anybody that is, sort of fit and well and healthy, you can cut it. We have members in 130 countries around the world, right? We have sitters that go from one country to another. And I always remember we had a young family from Poland who went to the United States to do 3 house sits. And she sent us a message when she arrived at her first house. And she turned, and her message was, this is just so amazing. They opened their home. They not only opened their homes to us, they opened their hearts as well. And I will always remember the trust. And that's why we're in a community. We have this community. It's multicultural, it's multiracial, it's everything. So yeah.
That's wonderful. And then also on that note, are there criminal background checks? Like, how do we know that the people that we're letting into our house are safe, or that we're going into their house, they're safe?
Okay, we have mandatory ID checks, and we have introduced criminal background checks for all sitters in the United States. We used to have it globally. We had a provider that did it globally. However, we haven't been able to do that because there are many problems doing, across the board with arranging that. But the one thing I need to say is that owners never, ever, ever lose control about who they invite into their homes. They don't just get anybody. We constantly hear, why would you let a stranger into your house? Why would you just open your door? You don't. You absolutely do not. We would never say that. We would never advise that. And strangers, are friends you haven't met yet. But when you do your own due diligence, you've got the ID checks, you have references, you have reviews, you have those verifications. And then you go through the process, and it is a process. When it's based on trust to start with, but all decisions are made on an educated decision with all the information that you are actually available at your fingertips. And, there are criminal background checks in the States and ID, but it's actually going through the process and making sure that it's right.
Yes, that's wonderful. Also, I'm just thinking, like, everyone on this call might be a house sitter, and I would trust all you guys. So also, just to reconfirm, we did have a question about the San Diego event date and where they could find that information. I think we can also send this in the follow-up email this week, but can you reshare that?
Yes, it's on Saturday the 26th from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. And it's at Little Italy Dog Park in the center of San Diego. And we will be there. So come and join us. But you can find out details. Also, go to our forum. Anybody out there that wants advice, help, discussions, go to our community forum, because we have members on there with experience, new members, and there's conversations going on there. And we've helped new members actually get their first sit and answer any questions. The other thing too is, on our Facebook page, there's an event for the San Diego event, and also you'll find the details on our website.
Okay, we'll also send that in the follow-up email, just because that's cool. We have a lot of people in California. We're down to our last couple of questions. So first last question. How are COVID requirements affecting house sitting?
Okay, obviously when COVID hit, everything shut down. But now that it's opening up, on the website, we have all of these articles that actually it's best practices for, handovers for sits during COVID. And so those are followed. And what's happened since COVID is there's been more domestic sits rather than international. Once international opens up, I think that travel will open up again. I'm off to San Diego I'm off to the States on Sunday. I'm going to be over there, and it'll be great to get in an aeroplane again. However, any advice and any sort of directive as far as COVID, on our website, we have full sort of advice and what you can do and how to manage them in the safest possible way.
Wonderful. That's great. And then we have another question about like, how much stuff do you typically bring, like luggage, do you typically bring with you on like a 6 or 8 month sit? Is there anything that you like really recommend bringing? And like, I don't know, can you sort of use some of the stuff that's already there, like shampoo and stuff? Do you have to bring that?
Okay. When you go into a house sit, you agree before you do the sit about what you can use and what you can't use. Owners will leave your white products, their paper products, all of that good stuff. They will say to you, use all of the dry goods. They'll tell you what you can use and what you can't use. Do you know what the amazing thing is? You make these connections, you go and do these sits, and when you go into homes, you actually discover that these owners are actually you. You look in the cupboards and they use the same herbs, the same spices. The one thing that always that always amazes me is I love music. I mean, I cannot stand silence. I play music all the time, and they would go, oh, play the music, go into that. And I'm a CD person. Sorry, I'm that age. And they will say, play it, and you'll go there and the CDs are the same. I go, oh my God, they like so-and-so. And you'll go around the house and you'll actually find out that these people are actually mirror images of you. So you can use what's on the sit. I know sitters who travel with a backpack and everything they need for their entire life is in there. I wouldn't get my face and body in a backpack. I mean, I never pass. I did not pass pack lightly at all. I graduated travel with flying colors and honors and everything. The pack lightly, travel lightly, failed miserably. So I'm sorry, I'm the last person to ask because I take absolutely everything. But of course, you can buy things when you get there. Shampoo and things like that you buy. I mean, you don't sort of pack all of that good stuff. But I think one of the things too is because we work digitally, one of the things is to make sure you've got all of your electrical goods, all of your, chargers and everything you need. Don't forget that there's different sort of plugs, there's different powers, there's all of that good stuff. So you have to be prepared. But no, I'm the last one to ask about traveling lightly. Don't do it.
Okay, wonderful. We won't ask you. Just to close out, this is the last question, and it's sort of a two-parter. One is like, there's many new people that are going to join house sitting after this because you've just shared so nicely about it, and it seems amazing. And I can't believe I've been paying for hotels and not having the company of all these furry friends. But for people that are new, like, how much time do you sort of recommend before you sort of throw in the towel? And are there resources to help people if they're not seeing people actually replying and saying, yes, come house sit? So if it's been like 3 months and they're applying, can they contact Trusted House Sitters, or can they, reach out, and will somebody help them with their profile or their services like that?
This is something that's really close to my heart because what is the point of buying a membership if you can't use it? As far as Trusted House Sitters is concerned, member success is high priority. We want our sitter members and owner members to be successful because that's the way we keep our members. If we don't do that, they're going to leave, and those dear pets are not going to get kept at home. So there are sitters who get success on their first sit. There are sitters who it takes time, but often when we look at it, it can be their profile needs tweaking. It can be their application. Let me give you a quick example. Had this young couple, they were in their early 20s and they had applied. And I looked at their profile. Their profile was great, and I knew there would be great sitters. And I asked her to actually send me an example of the application letter they were sending. She sent it to me, and it had all of these emojis. It started off with hi and a smiley face, and went through it. And I went back to her and I said, if you curate your message that actually it looks as though it's a professional message to apply for a job, because you don't know these people, you're being really, really familiar, and that may sit with okay with some but not others. So just approach it in a way that it's professional and you're applying for a job. And she went, oh, I never thought of that. And she wrote another one, sent it to me and said, is this right? And I said, that's perfect. She sent it up and she got the sit. I mean, it was just that first impressions, you only get one chance to make a first impression. But our membership services team are great. They're all experienced sitters, they're all owners, and they will help you. That is the purpose of why we, who we are. We want you to be successful. We don't want you to leave. We don't want you to say, I've paid you X number of dollars and I never got to sit. We don't want that to happen.
Okay, wonderful. Also, we have one last question that just came through about meeting and greeting people before they actually house sit. Is it typically done in person, virtually? Do you set that up? Are there ways to meet people? Like how does that work?
Okay, we don't set that up, because the moment that you connect with somebody on the platform, it's between the two of you. We connect, you're the ones that arrange. And we go back to starting locally or being local. If you're available and near homes, you can actually go and meet the people prior. But most of the time it's done on video calls, and then you'll go to the sit either the day before or a few hours before. Many sitters go and stay at the home with the owners, and that happens a lot with experienced owners who love to welcome their sitters, and they'll go and stay there the night before. They'll have a meal together, they'll do a handover. Some sitters prefer their privacy, and they'll go and they'll meet and they'll greet and they'll do a walk around so that they know the house and everything, and then they'll go off to a hotel and spend the night. I did that on a recent sit to Edinburgh. We went to a hotel, we went to the house, we had a look round, we did a tour of the kitchen, and the owner said, right, I want to go through this with you. And on the side was this humongous, incredibly expensive coffee machine. I mean, it was like just walked out of Starbucks. And she said, I need to show you how this works. And I went, actually, I don't drink coffee. We're tea drinkers. And she went, oh. And I don't know whether she was more relieved that she didn't have to go through it. I was relieved that all I had to do was clean the beast. I just dusted it. So I didn't go anywhere. It was like, oh my God, you need that to make coffee? I thought it was just a cup and a spoon. But anyway, so yeah, that's what you do.
Was that right next to the whole second refrigerator full of champagne?
No, that was in France.
You're really selling this lifestyle, Angela. You're really selling it. I love the sound of that coffee machine. Wonderful. That's so great. And then when it comes to the meet and greet events like the San Diego one, are those, do you have those in other locations as well, or is it just the San Diego one?
We've actually started in San Diego, because what we're doing is we're building out our communities, our local communities. And so we started in San Diego because that's where we have many members. However, also what's unique in San Diego, and I would love to hear from other sitters or non-sitters or anything, is if in your location you have a little Italy type place that has all this community, restaurants, bars, coffees, but they have this dog park and it is a magnet for dog owners all the time. If you have that in your community, then I'd love to know about it, because that's what we're doing. That's where we're having, and we support shelters. We do a lot of work with shelters. We support the animal pad in San Diego. We're talking with Wags and Walks, but all of the shelters, our support for them, because we can help them rehome their pets. But it's giving back as far as we're concerned.
Well, that's a nice place to end. I just want to say thank you so much, Angela. This has been not only informative, but very inspiring. Good job. Like, kudos to you. I so appreciate you coming on and sharing with our community. I have like 2 minutes of announcements. So if you can